Yo, what's up, gamers? Welcome back to episode 3 of the Janitor Files, where we dig through the gaming stories that swept under the rug, or in this case, thrown straight into the dumpster. I was cleaning out the breakroom fridge today and found something that expired even faster than that mystery yogurt in the back. A $400 million video game. Not a scrappy indie experiment, not a small studio misfire. This was Sony, a brand new online shooter built by former Destiny developers, marketed as a pillar in PlayStation's live service future. It launched on August 23, 2024. 2 weeks later, Sony pulls it from stores, refunds every buyer, shuts the servers down, closes the studio. Gone. No slow fade, no we'll fix it in Season 2. Just lights out. So now the real questions hit. What exactly was Concord? Who signed off on this? And how do you burn through that much money in one of the biggest genres in gaming and still miss this catastrophically? If you like peeling back the layers of gaming that never make it into the glossy trailers, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop this down in the comments. What kills a big budget game faster? Bad design or bad timing? Because with Concord, this wasn't just a flop, it was a collapse. So grab a mop, let's rewind. What was this thing actually supposed to be? So on paper, Concord was supposed to be a 5v5 hero shooter with 16 playable characters called free gunners, a sci-fi setting, and a corporate rebellion backdrop. Abilities, ultimates, team-based modes. You had Takedown, which is straight elimination, Cargo Run, which is basically escort the payload, Flashpoint, where you fight over objectives. It was online only, no bots, no campaign, $40 up front. And Sony promised this wouldn't just be a launch and leave game. It was supposed to grow. New heroes, new maps, cinematics, ongoing updates, the full live service roadmap dream. That's the pitch. Now here's the reality check. By 2024, the hero shooter lane wasn't empty, it was gridlocked. Overwatch 2, Apex Legends, Valorant, all free to play, all packed with years of content, all backed by massive communities who already had skins, ranks, muscle memory, and friend groups. And Concord shows up asking for $40, without a breakout mechanic or a character people immediately latched onto. It looked polished, it looked expensive, but it didn't feel necessary. And that's the quiet killer in multiplayer games. It felt like something designed for 2018 when hero shooters were exploding, not 2024 when players were already locked into ecosystems. It promised evolution, but players felt familiarity. It promised iconic heroes, but most people couldn't name one a week later. And that gap between what was promised and what players felt, that's where the collapse really began. Here's the part that makes this hurt more. This wasn't some first-time studio figuring it out as they went. Firewalk Studios was founded in 2018 in Bellevue, Washington. That's Series AAA territory. And the talent in the room, a lot of Bungie DNA. Destiny veterans, developers who had already shipped massive online shooters, supposedly understood live service systems at scale. They weren't guessing, they'd done this before. The studio was also backed by Probably Monsters, an incubator built specifically to assemble next-generation live service powerhouses. That was the language, not modest, not experimental. At the helm was Ryan Ellis, former Bungie creative lead. From the outside, this equation looked unstoppable. You got Destiny experience, Sony funding, live service ambition. You could almost see the headline forming. PlayStation's answer to Fortnite, Sony's Overwatch moment. And then Sony made it official. In April 2023, they didn't just fund the project, they bought the entire studio. That's ownership, that's long-term commitment. Hundreds of millions already invested by that point. Concord wasn't filler content, it was positioned as a pillar. Especially after Helldivers 2 showed Sony could actually win in multiplayer, the pressure only increased. The strategy felt validated, so Concord wasn't just another launch. It was supposed to be part of a bigger shift, but reports after the collapse painted a different internal picture. Concerns allegedly softened, feedback reportedly downplayed, a culture some described as toxic positivity, where problems were confronted but deferred to polish later. And that's dangerous in any AAA development, because when you have elite resumes, massive funding, and corporate messaging calling you the future, it gets harder to admit something isn't landing. From the outside, it looked like Pedigree. Inside, it may have been momentum without correction, and in AAA, unchecked momentum doesn't slow down gently, it hits a wall. Let's lay this out like a spill report, because Concord didn't slowly fail. It slipped on a towel and never got back up. Firewalk gets founded in 2018 and development starts rolling. New studio, big shooter pedigree, long runway. Then April 2023 hits and Sony acquires them outright. That's not we'll see how it goes. That's your part of the house now. Full confidence vote. A month later, 2023, Concord gets its first big public moment at the PlayStation Showcase. CGI heavy reveal, characters intros, tone setting, and the reaction? Not rage, not hype, just quiet. Fast forward to July 2024, open beta. This is supposed to be the part where the internet catches fire. Your wish list spike, and everyone says, okay, wait, this is actually kinda sick. Instead, turnout is thin, engagement is weak, the warning lights are blinking, and nobody's hitting the brakes. Then, August 23rd, 2024, launch date. Sales estimates land around 25,000 copies total, and on Steam, the peak player count never gets past 1,000. Within days, it drops hard. By August 29th, the numbers are already doing that thing where they're not concerning anymore. Their verdict. September 3rd, Sony announces the shutdown. September 6th, servers go offline, full refunds go out, and the game is delisted. Now we'll rework it, not free to play pivot, just off. September 19th, game director Ryan Ellis gets demoted, and on October 29th, Firewalk Studios was shut down completely. From launch to shutdown announcement, it just took 14 days. That's not a decline, that's a flash fire. And when a platform holder refunds everyone and kills the servers that fast, that's not a promise to fix it, that's a statement. And they're saying this isn't salvageable. So now we get to the part where we can't spin. The numbers. On Steam, Concord's all-time peak was 697 concurrent players. That's not the average, that's not the drop-off number, that's the highest they ever reached on that platform. And after that, it slid into the low hundreds fast. And in a multiplayer game, empty lobbies aren't just awkward, they're fatal. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the Sony server numbers, so I'm not able to tell you how many players were playing the game. But in a multiplayer-only game, empty lobbies aren't just awkward, they're fatal. No robots, no campaign, no offline mode. If players leave, the experience collapses with them. Reviews didn't save it either. Metacritic hovered in the low 60s, and unfortunately I'm not able to verify on Steam anymore, but the Steam launch rating sat around 42% positive during its launch. Not the worst score ever, but nowhere near strong enough to reverse momentum. And live service games survive on momentum. They need buzz. Streamers, growth curves, Concord had a flat line. Now here's the uncomfortable math. Development reportedly stretched back years. Sony had already invested around $200 million before acquisition. Industry estimates later suggest the full cost may have approached $400 million when you factor in salaries, infrastructure, marketing, and multi-year development burn. $400 million. Divide that by the 697 peak players that we know of. That visual alone tells you why this ended the way it did. This wasn't an emotional decision, it was finance. When the gap between spending and engagement is that wide, you don't start drafting a Season 2 roadmap, you stop the bleeding, and that's exactly what Sony did. So why did Concord actually fail? Let's break down all the possibilities. First, the market. By 2024, hero shooters weren't open territory, they were fortified ecosystems. But here's the important distinction. The genre wasn't dead, Marvel Rivals proved it. If you bring brand power, characters people already care about, and remove entry friction, players will show up. Concord didn't have that leverage. It wasn't competing in a vacuum, it was competing against ecosystems and established IP gravity. Second, pricing friction. $40 upfront in a space where competitors cost $0. Marvel Rivals free, Overwatch 2 free, Apex free. If you're charging admission, you better offer something undeniable. Concord asks players to pay to experiment. That's a tough sale in a crowded genre. Third is the timing. Development reportedly started in mid-2010s. Their hero shooter boom peaked between 2016 and 2018. Concord didn't arrive at the beginning of that wave, it arrived after the market matured. And late entries in maturing genres don't get patience, they get compared. Fourth, we got the identity. We had no breakout hero, no viral mechanic, no cultural movement. Marvel Rivals can say play as Spider-Man. Overwatch had Tracer and Genji from day one. Concord had free gunners most people couldn't name a week later. And in a genre built on character attachment, asking players to abandon their skins, ranks, and muscle memory requires something powerful. Concord didn't create that pool. Fifth, live service fatigue. Players aren't tired of multiplayer, they're tired of grind without magic. Battle passes, dailies, seasonal resets, those systems only work when the core hook is strong enough. Charging up front without compelling identity makes fatigue worse. 6. Internal friction. Reports after shutdown pointed to scope creep, crunch leading up to launch, and feedback that didn't meaningfully shift direction. When concerns become "we'll polish that later," they don't just vanish, they compound. And finally, marketing. The reveal didn't spark any momentum, the beta didn't flip the narrative, wish lists reportedly lagged. Those were early signals that the audience wasn't leaning in. And when you ignore early signals in AAA development, the correction window shrinks fast. None of these alone would have killed Concord, but stacked together, they didn't just weaken it, they suffocated it. Sony didn't try to ease this one down. There was no soft relaunch, no roadmap apology, no "we're listening" blog post. They issued full refunds, and that kind of shutdown at this scale is rare. But the real cost was in digital. Around 170 Firewalk employees lost their jobs, additional layoffs hit Neon Koi, roughly 210 people affected in total. Entire teams were gone, and the aftermath felt uncomfortable. Studio memorability showed up on resale sites, internal plaques, awards, pieces of something that was supposed to be the start of the franchise. Former developers published open letters, stories about crunch surfaced, conversations around union support started gaining traction. Then culturally, Concord became shorthand, a symbol of AHH overreach. It picked up worst game awards, it became the punchline in threads about corporate strategy. In 2025, a development build leaked. People dug through cut content and unfinished systems trying to piece together what might have been. But by then, it didn't matter. Fans tried spinning up private servers, Sony shut them down too. Cleanly, legally, final. No revival, no redemption arc, no cult comeback story. Just a permanent warning label stamped across a $400 million bet. Concord didn't flop in a vacuum, it landed at a turning point. For years, live service was treated like the holy grail. One massive hit could fund an entire publishing slate. Recurring revenue, seasonal updates, long-term ecosystems instead of one-and-done launches. When it works, it prints money. But when it misses loudly. After Concord, you could feel the caution spike. Not because live service is dead, it isn't, but because the margin for error is thinner than executives want to admit. Hero shooters in particular, that territory isn't open anymore, it's fortified. If you're entering that space today, you need one of two things: a disruptive idea or a free entry point. Concord had neither, and publishers noticed. You started seeing more public betas, more emphasis on early feedback, fewer blind premium launches that just say, "Trust us." Players have shifted too. In 2024 and beyond, multiplayer-first games were expected to start free. If you charge up front, you better bring something undeniable to the table. Concord didn't just expose one game's flaws, it highlighted a growing disconnect between AAA strategy decks and actual player behavior. And when a collapse is that visible and that expensive, it doesn't just end a studio, it forces an adjustment in the industry. And you know what sticks with me? It's not the reviews, it's not the memes, it's not even the 697 players. It's the speed. From future of PlayStation Live service to full refunds issued in 14 days. 8 years of development, hundreds of employees, hundreds of millions of dollars. 2 weeks of public life, then silence. No redemption arc, no free-to-play pivot, no Season 2 comeback trailer. Just off. And when something that massive vanishes that fast, it stops being about one game, it becomes a strategy check. Because Concord wasn't just trying to sell copies, it was anchoring a direction. And when the anchor doesn't hold, the entire fleet adjusts course. So the real question isn't why did Concord fail, it's this: if that much money, that much talent, and that much corporate backing can't force demand, what actually can? If you've been hanging around the Janitor Files, you already know the biggest messes usually aren't glitches in the code, they're misreads of the room. If you made it this far, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep cleans into gaming's biggest collapses, and tell me down in the comments below, was Concord doomed from the jump, or did the industry just move faster than it did? I'll be in the break room, making sure the next billion-dollar bet doesn't expire in the fridge. This is Scruffy the Janitor signing off. Peace out.